have an actual pill, a GLP-1 you swallow with your morning coffee, no needle, no refrigeration. We have a combination medication unlike anything that's existed before, now currently under FDA review. And we have a triple agonist in trials right now, producing weight loss numbers that nobody in the history of obesity medicine has ever recorded. If you're a woman in your 40s or 50s navigating perimenopause, menopause, and your metabolic health, you need to know about this pipeline. These are not small incremental upgrades. These are completely different categories of medications, and they could change your options in a major way over the next 2 years. Today, I'm walking you through 5 GLP-1 medications, what each one does, how it's different from what already exists, and what the actual clinical data shows, where each one stands right now, and what it means specifically for midlife women. Let's get into it. The content in this video is for informational and educational purposes only, and does not constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I am a nurse practitioner sharing my own health journey. I am not your nurse practitioner. My experience is not a substitute for professional medical advice. Always consult your own licensed healthcare provider before making any change to your medications, your diet, or your health plan. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. I'm Fallon, a dual board certified nurse practitioner. I am navigating perimenopause. I am a post-VSG patient struggling with weight regain, and I am on a new journey taking Mounjaro. Before the 5 medications, I want to give a quick framework so you can place each one in context. The original GLP-1s, Ozempic, Wegovy, and Victoza, work on one receptor. They act on the GLP-1, which slows digestion, reduces your appetite, and helps regulate blood sugar. One receptor, one pathway. Then came what we call the dual agonists, Mounjaro, Zepbound, Tirezepatide. These hit the GLP-1 plus the GIP hormone. That second receptor adds enhanced fat metabolism and better insulin response, which is why Tirezepatide generally produces greater weight loss than Semaglutide alone, which is Wegovy and Ozempic. Now, what's happening in the pipeline right now is a leap beyond both of those. Triple agonists, brand new hormone combinations, and finally, medications that don't require a needle at all. Each of these tools is different. And for midlife women whose hormones are already doing complicated things, having more precise tools matters. Let's start with the one that's already in the pharmacies today. The Wegovy pill was FDA approved in December of 2025 and launched in January of 2026. For the first time in history, you can take the same active ingredient that's in Wegovy injections, Semaglutide, as a daily pill. No needle, no sharps container, no injection to titrate or rotate sites, no refrigeration. The mechanism is identical to the injection. The GLP-1 receptor activation, slower digestion, quieter food noise, better insulin regulation. The innovation is entirely in the delivery. Nordisk developed a technology called SNAC, or SNAC, that locally raises the pH inside your stomach to allow this peptide molecule to be absorbed, something that has technically been impossible until recently. One important note, unlike the second pill we'll cover, this one does need to be taken on an empty stomach. So you have to take this one 30 minutes before you put anything in your belly with only water. Kind of like if you take levothyroxine or a thyroid medication and you have to take it 30 minutes before you're going to eat anything. Same concept. Now, the data. The OASIS 4 trial was the trial that they did on this Wegovy pill. The mean weight loss of 13.6% at 64 weeks in adults with obesity, comparable to Wegovy 2.4 milligrams. 79% of the participants achieved at least 5% weight loss versus 31% with just a placebo medication. Now, for women who've avoided GLP-1s entirely because of needle anxiety, or who've been on injectable Wegovy and want a less clinical feeling option, this is available right now. The conversation to have with your provider is about insurance coverage, which is still evolving, of course, but access does exist. So talk with your provider if you're interested. The second oral GLP-1 is Orforglipron, now FDA approved under the name Foundayo. And this one is different from the Wegovy pill in a way that matters for everyday life. The Foundayo is not a peptide. It is a small molecule built differently at a chemical level. But because of that structure, it can be taken at any time of day, with or without food, with or without water, no restrictions. Now that sounds like a small thing, but it's not. For women who are already managing morning routines, hormones, supplements, other medications, coffee timing, kids, getting them to school, getting to work on time, adding a 30-minute empty stomach window for a medication every single day can be genuinely disruptive. Foundayo removes that entirely. The mechanism is still GLP-1 receptor activation, so the effects on appetite, digestion, and blood sugar regulation are similar to other medications in this category or class. But the small molecule format is what makes the flexibility possible. Now, Eli Lilly's phase 3 data also showed something particularly interesting for long-term users. Orforglipron successfully maintained weight loss when people transitioned to it from injectable Semaglutide or Tirezepatide. That makes it a compelling maintenance option. Now, the data shows that 11% weight loss at 72 weeks on the highest dose, less than Tirezepatide injection, but meaningful for a pill taken with no restrictions at all. Maintenance trials showed weight successfully preserved when switching from Wegovy or Zepbound injections. For women who are already on an injectable GLP-1, maintaining well, but want to simplify your regimen, this is worth discussing with your provider. And for those who have never started because the injection felt like too much of a commitment, you now have 2 pill options that you could explore. Now, what I see happening is that my professional opinion, is that these oral combinations or oral medications will probably be a great maintenance conversation to have with your provider. After you've lost all the weight and now you're in maintenance from your injections, this could possibly be a bridge to maintenance to keep the weight off. And then maybe if you see the weight coming back on, it's a conversation to have with your provider about maybe going back on injections. So I see it definitely as a bridge for maintenance in my professional opinion. Now we're stepping into genuinely next generation territory. CagriSema. CagriSema is a combination medication that pairs semaglutide, GLP-1 ingredient form Wegovy, to something called CagriSema. And CagriSema is the part that's new. CagriSema is a long-acting amylin analog. Most people haven't heard of amylin, so let me explain it simply. Amylin is a hormone that your pancreas releases alongside insulin every time you eat. Its job is to signal fullness, specifically after a meal, and to slow the rate at which food leaves your stomach. It also suppresses the glucagon surge that causes a blood sugar spike after you eat. Now, what Novo Nordisk has done here is to combine 2 completely different satiety mechanisms into one weekly injection. GLP-1 effects, which suppress the appetite generally, amylin effects, which then specifically target post-meal fullness and blood sugar control. Different pathways, different additive effects. That's why the data outperforms either ingredient alone. So in the redefined phase 3 clinical trial, CagriSema produced 20.4% average weight loss at 64 weeks versus 14.9% for semaglutide alone and only 11.5% for CagriSema alone. So Novo Nordisk submitted the NDA to the FDA in December of 2025, and approval decision is expected sometime this year, 2026. Now here's what's worth knowing for women specifically in menopause and postmenopause. Estrogen plays a role in amylin sensitivity and post-meal satiety signaling, which means as estrogen declines in our perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, post-meal fullness cues can become less reliable. Adding a direct amylin analog to your treatment may help address a piece of the metabolic picture that standard GLP-1s alone don't fully reach. This is still very early science, but it's one of the reasons I think CagriSema deserves attention from this community especially. And now, the one I know many of you probably clicked on this video for, and the one you probably heard about, Retatrutide. And I want you to understand what this medication truly is, because it is in a completely different category from anything that currently exists. Current GLP-1 medications hit one receptor, the GLP-1, like Ozempic and Wegovy. Then Tirezepatide, Mounjaro, and Zepbound, the dual agonists, hit two receptors. Retatrutide hits three receptors simultaneously. One weekly injection activates your GLP-1 receptor, your GIP-1 receptor, and your glucagon receptor all at once. That's why it's called a triple agonist. And that third receptor, the glucagon receptor, is where this medication diverges from anything else on the market. Now, you know what a GLP-1 does. GIP, also in Tirezepatide, enhances insulin secretion and may improve fat metabolism. But glucagon is different. Glucagon typically raises blood sugar. Now, I know this sounds like the last thing you want a weight loss medication to do, but here's what the Lilly researchers understood. Activating the glucagon receptor also significantly increases energy expenditure and drives the liver to clear out fat. The challenge was engineering a molecule that harnesses those beneficial effects while also controlling that blood sugar response. And these researchers did it. And the results are unlike anything the field has ever produced. So the phase 3 Triumph 4 trials were done in December 2025. The participants lost up to an average of 71.2 pounds and up to 28.7% of their body weight. 28%. 28.7%. Phase 2 results showed that 24.2% average weight loss at 48 weeks, the highest ever recorded for any obesity medication at that time frame, at the 48-week mark. 7 additional Triumph phase 3 trials are reporting throughout 2026, covering obesity, treatment for type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, osteoarthritis, sleep apnea, and fatty liver disease. Now, I need to be completely clear with you about this because there is a serious amount of misinformation circulating online. As of early 2026, Retatrutide is not FDA approved. It is an investigational drug. It cannot be legally prescribed. It is not available at any legitimate pharmacy or compounding pharmacy. If you see Retatrutide being sold online or offered by a med spa or a compounding pharmacy, that product is not authentic Retatrutide from Eli Lilly. It has not been through regulatory review for safety, and it is not worth the risk. So please do not pursue it through those channels. The only legitimate path right now is a clinical trial participation. The Triumph trials are enrolling at sites around the country, and I'll link the clinicaltrials.gov in the description if you're interested. If you qualify and are interested, that is the only safe and legal way to access Retatrutide today. Otherwise, this is the medication to watch closely. The remaining 7 phase 3 trials report throughout 2026, and if the data holds, Eli Lilly is expected to file for FDA approval in late 2026, early 2027. I believe a realistic market availability window for this medication is about 2027, early 2028. Now, let me tell you why I've been covering Retatrutide specifically and why it matters for women in their 40s and 50s. Women in perimenopause often face a cluster of metabolic challenges happening simultaneously. Insulin resistance, increased visceral fat, particularly around the abdomen area, declining muscle mass, elevated liver fat in some cases, joint inflammation also worsening after menopause. The triple mechanism in Retatrutide, particularly the glucagon receptor component driving energy expenditure and hepatic fat clearance, has the potential to address multiple pieces of that cluster at one time. The Triumph 4 trial also shows meaningful reduction in knee osteoarthritis pain along with weight loss. Osteoarthritis disproportionately affects women after menopause. You've heard of the frozen shoulder. You've heard of the knee pain out of nowhere. That is not a coincidence. And that's why this drug may end up being particularly relevant for this age group. I will cover every major research trial update and triumphant trial update on this channel as results come through in 2026. So subscribe, like, share, so you don't miss any of that information. Now, the fifth medication is one most people haven't even heard of yet, and that's precisely why it deserves to be on your radar. It's called Amycretin, and it represents what may be the next frontier after everything we've discussed today. Remember medication number 3, the CagriSema, which combines the GLP-1 and amylin in a dual-chamber injection pen? Well, Amycretin takes that concept and collapses it into one single molecule, one compound, engineered to carry both a GLP-1 and amylin receptor activity within itself. No dual chamber, no two separate ingredients to formulate together, a single molecule entity doing both jobs. Now, here's the part that genuinely excites me about this one. Novo Nordisk is developing Amycretin in both injectable form and a pill simultaneously. If the oral version exceeds through phase 3, it will be the first ever oral medication combining a GLP-1 receptor agonist and amylin effects in a single daily pill. That's a fundamentally different world from anything available today. The phase 2 trial shows significant weight loss, and Novo Nordisk has described the profile as potentially, quote, best in class. Phase 3 trials for both the injectable and oral formulations are expected to begin early to mid-2026. No approval timeline yet. This is in the earliest stages of this medication on the list, but the science is genuinely compelling and worth tracking. Now, how does this apply to our community? For women in midlife who've had GI issues with injections, who've been waiting for a pill that does more than your standard GLP-1 effects, the possibility of oral medication combining GLP-1 and amylin in one daily pill is exactly what this space is needed. This one is farther out, but it's worth knowing about, and it's worth knowing that it exists. So let me pull it all together for us. We now have 2 approved GLP-1 pills, the Wegovy pill and the Foundayo pill, or Orforglipron, both available right now. If the needle has been the barrier keeping you from starting a GLP-1 journey, that barrier is officially gone. Talk to your provider. You have options. Coming next is CagriSema, the first ever combination GLP-1 and amylin receptor. Coming next is CagriSema, the first ever GLP-1 and amylin, currently under FDA review and potentially available later in 2026. After that, Retatrutide, the triple-agonist that's rewriting every record in obesity medicine. It is still in trials, but watching this approval pass in 2026 or 2027 will be one of the most important stories in women's metabolic health. And further out still, Amycretin, which may ultimately put all of those effects into a single daily pill. The bigger picture here is this. The options available to midlife women for metabolic support and weight loss support in the next 2 to 3 years look nothing like what existed 2 to 3 years ago. And if you're not bringing these conversations to your provider as an informed woman who knows what's in the pipeline, you should be. Not to demand medications that aren't approved, but to be a knowledgeable partner in your own healthcare journey. That is what this channel is for. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these 5 is the one you're watching closely most. Which one are you interested in most? Drop a comment below and tell me which of these 5 medications are the one that you're watching for most. Is it the Foundayo pill, CagriSema, Retatrutide? I read everything, and your comments genuinely shape what I cover in the next video. And if this helped you, please share it with another woman in midlife who could use this information. Subscribe, comment, like, share. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself.